It's very unfortunate that the thing you medicate with is as addictive as alcohol and heroin, and you don't know it. Let us help you. Let us show you the right tools to solve the right problem.
Food Addiction is a podcast which explores the disease of food addiction and presents the solution. We interview professionals and counselors who specialize in the disease of food addiction, and we interview individuals who have successfully recovered from food addiction and discuss how they did it. Esther Helga Goodmans-Dottir was motivated to change careers after she recovered from food addiction by opening a food addiction treatment center and the InFact School, the world's first and only sugar and food addiction counseling training, which offers a recognized certification. Check out the website for more information on obtaining this certification, as well as proven recovery programs at infactschool.com. Listen to these episodes as we discuss the problem and the solution around food addiction. I'm Susan Branscombe. I am a recovered food addict and the host of this podcast, Food Addiction, the Problem and the Solution. Today on the podcast, we have Sachir Ajlouni, founder of Aglon Recovery. Welcome, Sachir.
Hi, how are you, Susan?
Doing well. Good to see you. You reside in Jordan, and you were born in Jordan. You graduated from University of Miami in Florida, and you fall into the category of many of the professional guests we have here, which we are food addicts, and we recovered. We found the solution, which is not dieting. And when we recover, we find that when this happened, we feel called to help others. And so we change careers or add to our careers and give back. And Esther did it, Susan Pierce Thompson, Marty Lerner, Amanda Leith. We all did that. And that's what you're doing with founding Aglon Recovery. So you are a recovered food addict and a professional who has the food addiction group in Jordan, Aglon Recovery. So yeah, welcome again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to be here. Anytime we get the chance to spread the word is something that I'm always want to participate in.
Yeah. The downloads have been great. We don't know who all is listening, but we feel confident that the message is getting out there. So I'm going to introduce you and then begin some questions. So Sachir Ajlouni is the founder of Aglon Recovery in Jordan, which provides food addiction recovery through a 4-stage individualized recovery program based on the latest behavioral science and of food disorders and food addiction. Aglon conducts workshops to help people realize what stands in their way of eating well and losing weight. I researched some of your business experience, so I'll go over that. You are an engineer, business executive, public and private sectors, primarily in manufacturing and investment industries. You were president and CEO of Stone Pentagon Technologies for 4 years in St. Petersburg, Tampa, Florida area. And the company, which through H&T Express developed, and I guess still develops and designs manufactured printed circuit boards. So you have experience in managing and delivering sensitive projects with heads of states and high-ranking government officials that require high levels of confidentiality and decisiveness. And I see that you developed and implemented an organization-wide restructuring of the executive office of His Majesty, the King of Jordan, the Royal Hashemite Court, in a way that guaranteed its ability to effectively and sustainably translate the vision of His Majesty into actions set against tangible targets and key performance indicators, KPIs as we call them. So we're going to, very interesting background, private business, Jordanian government, food addiction recovery. So there's a lot there. So we're going to get into your career. Anything I didn't say properly there?
No, you just pointed out how old I am.
You should hear my career. We'd be here for another hour, moving around here and there. But we finally get to where we want to go, right? We get to an age where we know what we want to do, and it's become quite clear. So you and I have served several years together on the Food Addiction Institute board. And that is FAI, Food Addiction Institute. The website is foodaddictioninstitute.org. It was an organization founded in 2005 by Phil Wardell, and I think Michael Prager was involved as well. And we're going to talk about Phil in the podcast. It is a nonprofit organization whose mission is to raise public awareness and offer education about food addiction as a substance use disorder, which is aligned with making sure food addiction as a substance use disorder makes its way into the APA, American Psychiatric Association's DSM-5, and the Food Addiction Institute also supports availability of treatment for food addiction recovery. So I'm happy to serve with you on the FAI board. And you and I typically bring sort of a business perspective, I think. We share that. We both have run companies. And I know you're passionate about FAI's goals. So let's start by you telling us why you serve on FAI and what your motivation is.
Well, actually, I need to go back to FAI. The whole concept of food addiction, especially how I was, trying to battle my weight problem that I thought it was a problem and eventually it was not, was a very, very new thing to me and very attractive thing. And I owe, I want to say, the enlightenment of that to Phil, God rest his soul. And I think I was very lucky to have him in my life at that time to actually understand it, because that whole concept to me was very new, and especially from a culture like Jordan, it's even very difficult to comprehend. So he made it very, very, very easy for me. So going back to that, I know from day one, and that the FAI was his passion, his baby. The word about food addiction treatment, the science behind food addiction to start
Yes.
with. This is
Yeah.
where most of what I know.
Right.
So I joined FAI first because Phil wanted it.
Yeah. We did what Phil asked us to do, didn't we?
Honestly, that was my first motivation. Then I guess, not only from my personal experience, I think this is a topic that needs to be out there. This something that needs to be regulated and spread, and it has to get out there for everybody that needs it. And statistically, and I don't want to make it about obesity, but if we're going to take obesity as a reference, 80% of the population needs it, and they do not know.
They don't know about food addiction, and we don't know what the percentages are exactly on food addiction, the population. We know, substance use disorder like alcohol and drugs, it's about, I don't know, 14%. I think it's higher for food addiction, but we don't have really the science about that. But if you look around, if you see the stats, yes, we are an unhealthy society. We are obese. And so it's just not out there. And for people like you and me, and I think Phil, and I'm going to talk about Phil here, is that we didn't know what was going on. We didn't know about the brain chemistry. We didn't know about the cravings and the physical and emotional response to food. Phil has I'm going to introduce him, but he talks a lot about powerlessness and denial, these principles of food addiction, the eating anyway, despite negative consequences. You weighed 450 pounds. Let's talk about Phil for the listeners. He died just over a year ago. He began the Food Addiction Institute and served on the board. We served on the board with him. No one I've ever met was quite like him. He was pioneering in the field of food addiction. He had a diverse career as a college teacher, worked with students, dedicated his life to understanding and treating food addiction. Over 5,000 middle and late stage food addicts with Mary Fushi, his wife. So he dedicated his life to it and co-founded Acorn, a food dependency recovery services, now Shift, Recovery by Acorn, foodaddiction.com treatment center. So, I miss him. We miss him. And I know he was a powerful influence. He's written a lot. He's a very prolific writer. So anything else you want to say about Phil?
I want to say I miss him very much. And I just want to say that me and everybody here that is actually took the line of being part of the solution, and I want to say, and working in recovery with me, and the people that we are treating owe him everything that is happening with us.
So the powerlessness and the denial, it was all there with Phil, and he knew it. He was a recovered food addict, right?
Part of Aglon is a 1 day workshop just to teach them how to write that moment of powerlessness. And, and I actually remember, and it's we say I keep saying it. When Phil asked me for the 165th time to write this, this came out. And then this came out, and I mean, because in that for it to be perfect, it has to address the physical, the emotional, the mental, the spiritual. It has to you literally recover while doing it. So anyway, even here, this is a major part of our program. My program here is built a lot around Phil, and Phil is very famous in Jordan. He visited us twice. He, he did like an intensive, and we just we had a big gathering with everybody that was ever interested. I mean, actually, 3 times that Phil came to Jordan.
Yeah, he was a great guy. We miss him, but his legacy lives on, and we're carrying the torch for him. And just a lot of great things I learned from him. So I want to keep him in our minds. We're going to talk about your recovery as a food addict and your personal story, but I'd like to hear more about your business background. I hear you on our meetings with FAI, and you kind of remind me of me. And it's like, yeah, we gotta look at that. We got to do that, whether it's bylaws or whatever. So, tell me about your business life and private and public experience. And I would love to hear about your background if you want to tell the audience.
Yeah, I'll be really fast. Well, first I studied electrical engineering, and it was majoring in computer architecture and design with a minor in electronics. And I did that back in the 80s because that was the only window to go into computers. So that was, I did engineering to work in computers. Now, in my first job was in the University of Ottawa in multimedia research.
Canada?
Yeah, in Canada.
Okay.
And I was a research engineer, my first job. And it was literally, programming. It was really the coolest place to work in back in the late 80s, especially with technology.
Okay.
As simple as technology was, but internet was new at that time, just to remind you.
Yes, I remember.
But we had wind tunnels, and we were working on animation, and we did pretty cool stuff actually there. But as cool as it was, we actually worked. Duran Duran, right?
Yes.
And so there was a song, "Hungry Like a Wolf," and the woman changed a tiger. That is what we did in that lab. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, when I was working with computers, I was kind of shocked, and I was like, "This is not, the output is cool, but I'm programming code all day, and this is really not me." So when I moved to the States and I started working in the electronic part of my degree, which was design, and I liked it more. And then that company bought another company that manufactured circuit boards. So I did my professional engineering in industrial engineering. So I'm electrical and an industrial engineer. And I started the year of industry. I stayed there for 10 years, and then I decided to come back to Jordan when I had the family and all, what was happening. Now, just to attach that to my my problem with food, this was probably the worst 10 years of my life. This is where I hit rock bottom as far as losing the battle with weight. I came back to Jordan. I worked in industry. I started working as a consultant for government in environment and industry, and we were creating something called the Aqaba Special Economic Zone, which is in the southern part of Jordan. And then I moved on and worked in one of the biggest paper manufacturers in the world. And I was GM of that company at that time. And then I moved on to textile industry. We had almost 5,000 employees. We started the textile industry in Jordan at that time. And during this time, and every time I'm working in an industry, uh, we're kind of fixing it. So it's restructuring written here on my forehead.
Problem fixing.
And I in the private sector, and I don't have any political ambition relevant to what people have. But then I got a phone call, and His Majesty wanted to restructure the royal court, and they chose me for that task. And I just thought about that and decided, okay, maybe give this a shot. And it was, this is also a story that I'm just going to cut, but then maybe later, me and you, I'll tell you the details of that. And I started that project, and it's basically to restructure the royal court. And I was hired as the Secretary General of the Royal Court, and that is a minister level position in Jordan. And I stayed in that position for 8 years, and we did a lot of beautiful work really during that time. And this was the time when His Majesty was, just took over, you know, the throne after his late father died. So it was really a very challenging time, and there was a lot of learning, a lot of work done there. Now, during this time, without me knowing recovery, and I thought I was just a really busy man, perfectionist, and pretty focused
Driven,
on
driven,
work.
perfectionist. Yeah, I got it.
My health was going to hell. You know, you know. Uh, I did bariatric surgery prior to actually joining the royal court, and I did lose almost the 200 pounds, and then I regained them again. That was my last station of trying to work this. But anyway, so I stayed there, and then I really kind of decided I had enough from that, and I decided I want to leave. Now, this is one of the jobs that's really difficult also to leave from. Usually, people don't hold office in that position more than 2 years, and I was there for 8. So I kind of convinced His Majesty to let me resign, and I
Let you
resigned.
go. Yeah. You've
And
had you've had a lot of interesting experiences. I mean, you're an engineer, you're a businessman, very good businessman. You worked for the King of Jordan. I mean, you've got a really broad experience, and I think I was going to get into Aglon and what you do there, but I think I'd like to hear more about the personal recovery. So I'd like to hear about your experience with how busy you were and ambitious and driven, and just, okay, let's fix this with bariatric surgery. Talk about the pressure, and how that leads us to eating.
now, bariatric surgery was my last station. Honestly, it was my last station. Okay, so yeah, well, honestly, before recovery, I think everything was wrong, and I keep telling my people. Well, I want to say that if you want to resolve any problem, you need to identify it. And what I did for 32 years prior to recovery, I was trying to actually unscrew a Phillips screw with a hammer. It's the problem was never the weight. The problem was, why do I overeat? And I never discovered that till I came to recovery. So everything before recovery is one bundle of fighting the wrong problem with the wrong tool. And I really have a long story. It takes 3 hours to tell you my short version, but I'm going to go fast. So after recovery, I really thought at the beginning that my problem started when I was 18. So before 18, I was very athletic. I'm an extreme athletic person. So I was a taekwondo champion. I was in the national swimming team. I play every sport you could imagine perfectly. Now at 18, I had, it was the last year of high school. And this is a really big thing in Jordan. All right. And I had to just drop everything and sit and study. And especially having a dad like my dad, and that is another part of the problem. I'll explain it in a minute. You know, I had to just stop everything and study. Now, in that first year or the 6 months that I sat and studied and left the sports, my weight increased 25 kilograms. Is around 60 pounds
60 pounds. Okay.
in 6 months. That was
So
the
you're
first time.
studying and eating, right? Eating and studying.
The sports, I'm studying and eating. But now going back to what I know today, my problem with food started since childhood, you know, but it was kind of balanced. But I know now that it started a long time ago, but the effect of it, manifested at 17. Now, then I tried every diet on earth. Now, let me give you another background. My dad is one of the top endocrinologists in the world, and he's, he's the head of endocrinology in the Middle East. He is the number one enemy to obesity. So every morning he would look at me and say, "Man, why don't you just close your mouth? You know, what's happening? Come on, what's happening?" Like every morning, and so I did really try everything. One of the things I tried, I don't know if you ever tried that. I wired my jaws shut, at the dentist. You did it?
Well, I had jaw surgery where my mouth was wired shut for 8 weeks, and I thought I'm going to lose all this weight, but turns out you can get a lot of calories through a straw.
I discovered how to untie it and eat and then tie it again.
I tried a lot of other things. I mean, over exercising and everything. But I think what you're getting to is food was our solution to assuaging the anxiety, right? Food was the solution.
The only solution. The only solution. And as you leave other, I want to say, mood modifiers like the sports, like, when you're younger, as life takes you, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And there's only food. And of course, this is the other problem. You don't know you're getting addicted to this. You think you like it. Now, I'm a chef also, and I love to feed people. I mean, I cook and eat. And I also discovered I like to cook because I like to eat.
Yeah.
But I did that. But what's happening? I lose the weight, that temporary solution, whatever it is. And I really have so many stories. I mean, I went to a voodoo witch to lose weight.
You win.
I really,
You win.
and this is really funny because I was in the cave, and this is in Djibouti. Okay, I already risked my life to be in that cave because Djibouti is a very dangerous country. And the lady is, voodooing and doing this, and I'm okay with that, smashing of stuff, and I don't care about the yellow stuff, the bones. I don't care then. But then she started spitting in the mixture, and now listen what's going on in my head, because listen how desperate we are, right? It's okay. It's okay. You don't know what the pharmaceutical industry put in medicine. So I was convincing myself that I'm gonna eat that stuff. You know, imagine I'm like sitting there. I'm like, in the middle of the desert in a cave with a voodoo witch, and I already paid 400. And I'm 400 pounds, so I'm not gonna. Nothing's gonna stop me here. I tried crazier. Thank God, actually, when she gave me that thing, it was not something to eat; it was something to put on. So it,
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it was.
thank God.
But the thing is, when they say addiction is a problem of the brain, how as it progresses, you lose a lot of your personhood and values. This is what it is. When I would willing to eat that or eat from the garbage or do whatever I do for food, and this is where the food becomes the most important thing in your life, and nothing else matters.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I saw the before photos of you. You were quite obese. You weighed 450 pounds. So talk about your personal journey.
so so at the end, after 24 years from that high school issue,
Yeah.
trying to solve it, and I remember coming back to Jordan, and I was taking 18 pills. I had every metabolic disease you could think of.
Yeah. High blood
Okay,
pressure, diabetes.
everything. Diabetes is the last one. I had gout, high blood pressure, high triglyceride, I had cholesterol, I had it all. And when I came, I mean, I remember actually when I tell the story, I say that was around 10 pounds from death. I was gone. I mean, honestly, I couldn't even carry myself. And this is when there was no choice but to do bariatric surgery. And I did bariatric surgery in 2001 in Jordan. Bariatric surgery was not even a thing yet. Being really connected in the medical field with my dad, and so on, they figure out what they want to do. And they did the bariatric surgery for me. And in the bariatric surgery, which was a 50-50 chance for a 450-pound man to be under anesthesia for 45 minutes, I had to stay for 4 hours because they didn't consider the muscle mass I had. They never assumed I was athletic when I was young. So the first thing, and then the complications happened. During my bariatric surgery, my heart stopped twice. I flattened. And it took me 30 days to wake up from it, Susan. And and I didn't do your normal bariatric surgery. I have a 300 ml stomach, so it's a combo between, bariatric, a sleeve, and a bypass. I have something very special. And I couldn't move for almost 6 months. I couldn't eat anything but liquid, transparent broth for around 8 months after the surgery. So I did lose the weight and I almost died and lost myself. And yet 2 years later, I start regaining the weight.
Yeah. How did you do that? I mean, did you start? I mean, you had a very small stomach, but you probably just ate all day, right?
Now I know what happened. This is the thing when you become an expert. I moved from a volume eater to a grazer. And I just, and I was, and honestly, I just want to mention something here. And this is very important. The bariatric surgery accelerated the progression of my food addiction and all the other food disorders that came with it. Because I'm not only a food addict, I'm a compulsive overeater, I'm a volume addict, I am anorexic and bulimic at the same time. I mean, it just accelerated it. So before the bariatric surgery, it was, progressing as much as I'm eating, but I used to eat volume, and there is some times where I stop. After bariatric surgery, I would not stop, Susan, till I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop. I couldn't see food and not eat it. And this is like when I tell people don't understand what addiction is. Addiction is that you cannot be in front of it. If you're in front of it, you're going to have it. Like if an alcoholic is in front of alcohol, he's going to drink. If a drug addict, a recovered drug addict is in front of drugs, he's going to use. With food, it was the same for me. And I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop. And, after that, I got really desperate. I said, you know what? What I'm going to do? I shut my mouth. I did all the diets in the world and all the diets in the world. I mean, I did all the diets in America, in China, Africa. I didn't. And then I don't have a stomach and I'm still not succeeding in this. And again, this is even worse because I move mountains in my life. I mean, I am a successful person. If I put my head to anything, it happens. And I could not do this.
Could not fix this one. Your story is incredible, really. That the bariatric surgery, a lot of people want to just stuff themselves with a shot, Ozempic or something to fix it. And they may be a food addict. Can you stop yourself from starting? Can you stop once you start? You have to go to the powerlessness, the denial, negative consequences. Let's talk about when you got to the point where you realized it wasn't your fault, that it was something else besides your ability to have willpower and fix a problem.
Well, this is what happened. So I regained the weight. So I'm back to 400 pounds again. And this is where I just said to everybody, nobody's going to tell me to diet. I'm done. I want to die. I don't care.
I did that. Yeah.
I don't
No more
care.
diets. No more diets.
Nothing. And actually, the topic is not even, it's not on the table for anybody. That's especially my dad, my wife, my friends, whoever cares about me, don't care. That's what I told him. I there's nothing I can do. Now, when I heard about recovery for the first time was April 2014. And that was from a lady that went to Acorn and did the intensive and actually worked on her food addiction problem and came and told us about it.
Was it in Jordan? Was she in Jordan?
She was in. She has a very interesting story. She has several books. She is a recovered food addict. So she told us about it, and honestly, I'm desperate. I didn't even listen. I didn't care, and she didn't convince me. But then when one of my old friends walked into the room, because the motivation is different, and this guy was like always in school, like one of the guys that are bigger than me, and you like those people, right? Because they're bigger than
hang with them, right?
but he's one of those people that never dieted. Like, from the first grade till we graduated, he just gets bigger and bigger. Like I would lose weight, gain weight, lose weight, but he
just got bigger and bigger, never dieted, didn't care, right?
But then when I saw him and he is like thin, and it's like, what happened? Then he said, this happened. So now I was motivated for the weight loss, just to be honest. I was motivated for weight loss. I don't understand recovery. Keep in mind, this is our issue here. Recovery, addiction, I don't care. Okay, if I have to sing the Serenity Prayer and hold hands and do that, be thin, I'm willing to do it. So,
me too. Go ahead.
So actually, I went and registered at Acorn, the first and that was June in 2014. So
2014. So a couple months. You're okay. So now you're like, okay, let's try this.
Now this is the I would say really, really ridiculous. I lived in Florida. I lived in Clearwater. I was 25 minutes away from Acorn, and I never heard of it. Can you believe that?
Wow.
I went to all the Weight Watchers, all the Jenny Craigs, everything in the Bay Area, but I never got to go to there. Anyway, I go and I meet Phil and register for the intensive. All right. Now, I'm motivated by weight loss. So that first circle when we sat and in the room, then we talked everything. We said goodbye. So I am there, me and Phil, and there's 11 women with us in our first intensive. And funny enough, Amanda was with me. That was her first intensive.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Okay. So all right. So you were with Amanda. Okay.
From that day, Amanda was her first day there. Me too. And so they asked me, you sit because you're checking in, right? Are you powerless? And I look like that, go, I'm not powerless. What's wrong with me? I have a food plan and I have lost 22 kilos. That's like around 50 pounds. What's powerless? So I remember everybody's look at me, like the look they gave me, and I keep saying it in Arabic, so we say ya haram, but in English it means you poor thing. You poor thing.
We say bless your heart. We say bless your heart.
They looked at me like, this guy, he has a long way to go, right?
Yeah. Oh, Phil had your number probably from the first minute.
So anyway, and this is where it started. But I was motivated by weight loss, but then I started with them. Now I got so excited about the whole concept, and Phil was with me. And 8 days intensive with Phil, and we're the two only men. We will spend all the days, just talking about the subject, and I loved it. And that time I registered that from the first intensive. the 3-year professional training program that Phil ran in Acorn. And I stayed there. I didn't go. I stayed like almost a year in the States, and I just started the professional training, and which was intensive after intensive. Now, I have to say, it took me around 4 to 5 intensives to understand the word powerlessness.
You didn't want to get it? Is that it?
It's a process, Susan, and you have to go through it. And I would say the difference that now what I do here with my people is different than what Phil did with me and what happened with you. That process there is self-motivated. You have to do it yourself. You have to kind of work it and unblock and find it. I mean, today I really explain to the people how it works. I explain more because I want to give them a better chance to do it, understand it, and not to give up. It's a very tricky concept to get it, especially with people that are successful and perfectionists and lost weight 20 million times. It takes
what it takes.
it
Yeah.
takes believing in it. And
We want to talk about, yeah, go ahead.
here I do that moment of powerlessness. I give people around a month to 3 months for them to get it, and we push through the levels. The
The
arguments,
denial, yes, right.
and listen. I have all Phil's denial work, and I have lectures about denial, maybe 20 hours, and this is what we keep pushing people. We tell them recovery is a matter of consciousness. If you are unconscious with the denial on your head, no recovery. For you to stay awake, you need all these tools, all this support, all what we're offering you. And again, this problem that keeps telling you don't have a problem makes you the problem. You start saying, I don't want. And I just want to also say another cultural challenge here. Most of the people come to me because they just want to lose weight. Now, that is the easy part. And once they lose weight, if I don't already have them converted through knowledge, they don't care.
Yeah. 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 We say in 12-step rooms, we come in for the vanity, we stay for the sanity. And when we put the food down and start eating the way we're supposed to, we have to get to the causes and conditions. And of course, that is emotional, mental, and spiritual recovery. But so you and I have had long journeys. We could spend hours on here talking about what we went through. But you went through Shift. You did the leadership program with Phil. This is 2014, so about 10 years ago. And you realized what it was, that it was food addiction, and that there was a lot behind the food addiction. Let's talk about the transition from your recovery, and maybe you spend a minute there, and then talk about starting Aglon. You started that 10 years ago. So go ahead.
So as I started recovering, and I'm telling you, the first year was tough because all these concepts, they're new to me and I could not comprehend them. And again, with all the character defects I already picked up 32 years ago, it's also more difficult. So I'm very self-centered. I am I am angry without knowing. And I was desperate and hopeless, at the time. I mean, with the diet mentality that works a lot against you. But I mean, I just started seeing the light, and I really, again, I have to say, it was Phil. It was Phil. Like Phil really took my hand, him and Mary. But Phil was teaching me everything. Sharing a lot of things. And so I kind of understood it, or I want to say even accelerated my understanding for it. And then when I come back to Jordan, I started helping people and showing them what's the right thing, because most of the people trying to do this here had a total misconception about what abstinence means, what powerlessness means. They didn't have a clue. So I started to actually help them, and I started helping them by education. So I will take the concept of denial and explain it, the concept of powerlessness and explain it, and I will do that in weekly meetings. And we started doing the meetings in our house, and then we expanded to a larger place and so on. But this is how it started. But then as I recovered, I decided to help other people recover. And we evolved Aglon. I just want to have to say this. So I evolved Aglon, and this was hand in hand with Phil. So the first version of Aglon was literally exactly like Acorn and 12-step based.
12-step based, and it was an intensive where you
And
you weigh your food, start with abstinence, take sugar out, right, and flour.
we added to it. We gave 24/7 support. We take much more than sugar and flour out of the people here. We're kind of a little bit extremist on that, but it works. And we say we want you to lose the mental obsession with food. So we take ultra refined processed food, sugar, and anything sweet, and flour and anything refined. So that's out, and we immediately put them on a food plan, and the food plan is balanced, food. And in the first, and we call it, we say we promise you food freedom. The food freedom we promise is dignity of choice. So we say we start restrictive, and we call it the food funnel. We have it with the stage of the program. But then as you progress with your recovery and know yourself more and understand the problem and the solution more, your food freedom increases and
I
increases.
got it. Yeah, yeah.
Until you are ready to make mindful decisions about what works for you and what doesn't. Now, a condition for what works and doesn't work, that you really know and understand that you're powerless. So that's how we do the steps there.
Yeah,
So
yeah, you teach it. It sounds like you teach that in there, that you say what we offer is not a diet. We offer a recovery program that will take you from hungry and heavy to healthy and happy. That was
we say, we promise food, stop dieting. We have a stop dieting thing, get food freedom, and then we teach them recovery. And the concept is amazing, honestly. And so we started with that, and then we discovered, where it's not working. I said, the word addiction is a taboo. People, you lose them there. The other thing is also, people in our culture are not ready to work in group. So that is very challenging. That's very challenging.
interesting. In your
And
culture, they don't
they don't want to be
necessarily work in groups.
groups and so on. So that's why in the first 12 weeks, till people get to know each other, to get to understand the problem and to see how common things they have, we strictly do the group on food and knowledge. So they come to the meetings together. They sit in the intensive. We have the 3-day intensive is an intensive. That's the workshop we give. And that's basically to break their denial. They come out of there ready to work. Then they start working, and then they start working together, and we put them in a group together, a WhatsApp group, So, and they are there. We have 2 and sometimes 3. We call them, a counselor that's certified from InFact. Then we have coaches in training, which are, doing the practical. And then we have assistant coaches, which are volunteers from the program. And these people give them 24/7 support, 24/7 support for 12 weeks. Everything they put in their mouth, they take a picture, put it on the group, and they check in. And they don't make decisions about their food. So basically, let me just tell you what we did. So the food sponsor and the sponsor are now in the group with the
Right, with a bunch of food pictures coming across the wire, right?
Then after we finish that physical part, they are ready to start working on the emotional, mental, and spiritual. And this is where we bring them in for that. We do a 1-day workshop. And that's only talking about powerlessness and breaking the denial. So this is breaking their denial with food addiction. And this is where they start working on the levels, the secrets, the 5 levels. And now we start working on process groups, in group and under our supervision. Now, as they progress in this, and this could take 3 months, 6 months, a year, depending on the person and how they're working. Now, if we need to work on deeper stuff, we do one-to-one counseling with them.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah.
If we now
Yeah.
after this is done and they're ready, they're open, they understand powerlessness, they understand everything, we do the resentment workshop,
Ah, that's where
which
it
is
gets good.
for,
Yeah, I know about that part.
well, our
Yeah.
experience, if we do it at the beginning,
No, you can't. You can't. You got to put the food down. Start getting everybody to trust each other. I know. And in your culture, 12-step recovery, programs. It's just not. It's stigmatized, right? It's not in the Jordanian culture. Yeah,
it's not only Jordanian, it's the whole Arab Middle East culture.
Arab, Middle Eastern. Okay, yeah. Um, how many of these do you hold a year? These workshops. They sound great, by the way.
We do twice a month,
Twice a month.
twice
Okay.
intensives. So next year we have almost twice a month the 3 day workshop. We have almost 2 times or at least once a month the 1 day and the 1 day depending. Have 3 lectures a week in the afternoon. So yesterday we had process work, so we had that. Today we have knowledge for the new groups. In an hour they will come and we'll talk to them. We talk, we actually address the problems like barriers of recovery, honesty. We talk about biology. We talk about diet versus recovery. So it's always educational towards recovery. And of course, we make sure everybody's okay and they're still getting the program, understanding and growing. So that happens 3 times a week almost.
Yeah, and it's not just Jordanian people. People come in from all over the world to attend these, right?
We have, especially after COVID, we have people in England, we have people in Canada, we have people in America, we have people in Japan, South Africa, all the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and the Gulf countries. So we have a lot of people all over the world, honestly.
Yeah, it's really great. What is the give us the website?
It's www.aglonrecovery, one word.com.
Aglon, Aglon Recovery. It's a great website. We've got just so much time left here, so I want to kind of get into a couple of other things. So as we close out here, we are at the FAI, Food Addiction Institute, attempting to get the message out that this is real, food addiction is real, and there is a solution. Whether it's 12-step recovery or some other form of that or some other thing, there is recovery and it is possible. And we want to get it in the APA's DSM-5. In the U.S., we have RFK Jr., controversial figure, but he's putting a spotlight on the food industry and the FDA and big pharma. So as we close out, we know food addicts can be obese. There is a change in our brains when we eat. When we crave, we want more. What would you say to somebody out there who weighs 250 and they should weigh 180, 300, 400 pounds? What would you say to that person that might be interested in what you're saying and how you recovered?
Well, I will say to them, you've been fighting the wrong problem for all these
Yeah,
years. The
right,
problem is not the weight. The weight is the side effect. And then I'll ask them, what is the problem? The problem is, why do you overeat?
right.
You overeat to self-medicate your stressed brain and emotions with food. That is what needs fixing. Very unfortunate that the thing you medicate with is as addictive as alcohol and heroin, and
Yeah.
you don't know it. Let us help you. Let us show you the right tools to solve the right problem.
Any closing words? We know that there's a lot of obesity out there. I wish people would see that this could be the solution. Not everybody's a food addict. Some people just eat emotionally, but we're using food in the wrong ways, and we're not eating what our bodies are meant to eat to nourish them.
My closing words would be that what keeps me in recovery is the peace and happiness I got.
Yeah,
I will not trade that for anything in the world. There is no food that will take that from me or anybody. Just to say, I mean, what I found after recovery is priceless.
Yeah.
And and this is something that I have a passion to help people, because I really don't want them to go through the pains I went through.
Yeah.
I bring the solution here to them, and this is something that is just a life changer, and that's the most important thing. People's
Yeah.
peace and happiness. That's what it is.
Peace, happiness. Yeah. Doesn't come from Kit Kat bars, that's for sure. It does for a while and you numb out, but
I just want to say that me and Mona, 2 years ago, we decided to dedicate our life here. So
yeah.
this is where we moved. We left everything else. Well, we're trying to leave everything that we have to do, but we did actually, and we are dedicated here just to do
Full time.
and help
Yeah.
people. We are the only center in the MENA area that does this. You can't imagine what's happening here.
Middle East, is it MENA? Is that what that is?
The Middle East and North Africa.
Middle East, North Africa. You're the only food addiction recovery center in that area. Yeah.
So
wow.
So it's a mission.
Sachir, it's been great to host you today. I know Esther's going to love it. I know you love Esther like I do, and
oh yes, and she's actually one of the people that really affected my life. Also, she is.
Yeah.
She was always with us with Phil. Also, I know Phil, and I'm so happy that she carried on with what she's doing. She's doing a great thing for the world. Also, I love her very much.
Yeah, she is, and the school is great. infactschool.com. So, thanks again for joining me. Say hi to Mona for me.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you very much.
This is the Food Addiction Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the podcast and learned more about this disease. We hope you will rate and write a review on this podcast and share it with others. If you or someone you know is suffering from the disease of food addiction, there is a solution. The various food addiction recovery programs are available and listed on the website, theinfactschool.com. Or if you would like to know more about how to get certified in treating food addiction, the school is accepting applications now for its next training beginning in September 2023. Go to theinfactschool.com. That's INFACT school.com to learn more.